New Resident Evil game is officially confirmed. They just announced it at Capcom Next, but it was very subtle, right? It was kind of swept under the rug a little bit. They tried to be real discreet. There was nothing really shown, no updates or anything, but they did confirm, in fact, that it's going to keep going alongside the franchise and what they wanted in recent times since Resident Evil 7, since they segue, and their segues were beautiful at Capcom Next. They only announced a few things, right? Kunitsugami, and then they announced right after Dead Rising. Then after Dead Rising, they segued into Resident Evil Biohazard, and they kept just kind of just really rotating those three around and talking about those games. Now, Kunitsugami does have a demo right now available, so if you want to go check that out, just go do it now. Download it if you're interested in that game. Capcom really going all in with that game. The depths of that game was pretty cool when they were really describing it. And I believe they did have that collab. The Resident Evil, though, I really love how they broke down Resident Evil, because what they were talking about Resident Evil is one thing and one thing only. They're looking right at their fan base. Now, Capcom has been cooking in recent times when it comes down to the fan base, ladies and gentlemen. They have been cooking. If you're a dev, you're looking left and right, you're looking all around, you need to look at what Capcom is doing now. Obviously, don't copy the products, but Capcom has been doing phenomenal. They said, we understand, and the fans were not liking the action essence of Resident Evil. They listened to all the feedback. They brought back Resident Evil 7, went to 8. Now, we don't know what's going to be Resident Evil 9 or what. We just know another Resident Evil game is coming around, and they said they were emphasizing a lot on that first person, so we don't know, but what they do confirm is they're going to remain in the horror facet of the game. They do not want to go back to more action essences. They said they do not like that downfall of what had happened, so it is going to be really incredible. Now, it was a subtle thing, right? They just said it really quick because there was great news. They don't want to do the whole juggling essence of kind of like with like what happened with Days Gone, right? You don't want just a great game to get swept under the rug. So it was good that they just kind of discreetly said that they're going to get a Resident Evil out, and then they went back to Dead Rising, because Days Gone kind of got just with PlayStation on that release, you know, it went under with like Naughty Dog and stuff like that, because they already had The Last of Us, and like there was just so many other great games that were in that essence, like Uncharted. I think Uncharted was out at that time too, I believe. But yeah, just so much things were happening that Days Gone to this day still remains a very underrated game under the rug. And it wasn't perfect at launch, but still, it's because they had so much great stuff announced. And so I like how Capcom really handled the segues and rotating everything, and also letting us know that there is going to be Resident Evil, but we're not going to give you details. We'll just confirm it right here, and that's it. We're going to move on. We're going to stick to the horror elements of Resident Evil, and here's Dead Rising. And then going into Dead Rising was crushing it. Man, the way that it looks is so great. I'm telling y'all right now, if y'all haven't already, I do have my reaction video to it also. Go check that out. It is so cool how they really remastered it. They said they don't even feel like it's a remaster, that it's more of a remake of the game, or even higher evolution, maybe almost to, because they said they added so much things, they added so much counterparts, they added a lot more things, but kept the whole essence of what made original OG Dead Rising fun on this deluxe. It is available September 19th. The zombies was one of my favorite things, man. They made them look so good, and they actually go back and forth of how it looks from the original to the remaster, the deluxe remaster, and they show it, and it looks so good. They capitalized really well on that, and they also talked about just it's out September 19th, and they just have a lot of fun stuff going down with Dead Rising, and I really like that, and I appreciate that, because they go into the comical side of it, of how they were just continuously just letting like all the weapons that we use, all the just everything we do in Dead Rising that made it what it was, right? Comical, different, very immersive, while being like this comfort type game where it's therapeutic, where you just beat up on zombies and move around, get engaged in the story. Everybody likes Frank, of course, and just bringing that essence back. I had recently just played Off the Record again, and it was so fun because it's a fun spinoff, and I was doing like the challenges, or like the infinite horror type aspect, or the sandbox aspect, and I was just like, man, this is so fun. And so I like what they're doing with Dead Rising. They're bringing back that catering portion, what we really wanted. So Capcom really cooking in on that. I can't give them enough props, because I just made a recent Capcom video as to why they are actually cooking, and that was talking about all the Marvel versus Capcom classics, and just announcing this Dead Rising and much more. They are not playing around this go time, and then announcing, or like literally all cool, just being like, okay, Resident Evil is here. That's crazy, man. They also really did break down some of their future plans in the near future. It's not anything crazy. Like what I said, there's no footage shown, no additional games, but they are really saying that Resident Evil, Dead Rising, Kunitsugami were really some of their emphasis right here. And then they announced like the release of the mobile aspect. They did really good on this showcase with 3 games. I love their transitions. There was really nothing in between. It was like maybe 40 minutes long, and they were really giving us all the full breakdowns of everything. I'm excited for Resident Evil, y'all. Resident Evil has been out forever. They showed all the classic details on how like old it is, and I'm just like, dude, look how old these were, like from back from PS1 and Nintendo 64. If you're OG, got a comment, let me know if you're OG, man. I always love when the OGs are hanging out on our channel. It's so hard to explain to a lot of younger people like everything we went through, especially with Capcom. Capcom has been around since the 80s. The 1980s. So yeah, they showed all the Resident Evil replicas and what made it scary and the horrifying elements from the beginning. And therefore, they said why they want to stick to that instead, because the director says it. I think one of the directors, one of the devs, and then somebody else actually says it on that dev team. That's like, we understand, like, it seems like that we kind of fell off of Resident Evil. This was prior to Biohazard, though. I'm not talking about 7, but I think they were talking about 5 and 6 for sure. Because I personally didn't like any of 5 and 6. 4 was incredible. I didn't like 5 and 6 at all. Y'all got to tell me if y'all liked Resident Evil 5 and 6. But yeah, he talks about how those two kind of just fell off a little bit and that the audience was not loving that, and that he went back and did far more research and he was playing them all over again, and that how he wants to implement that back and how they really came up with the structure of Biohazard. And, you know, in my opinion, that was like Outlast on steroids. It was just like this game where I felt hopeless. And he talks about why the first person view also, because from the OG games, of course, that type of weird element, and those if you played OGs like on PlayStation, you know exactly what I'm talking about, those camera angles. I forgot the exact name of it though. Y'all know what it is. Y'all let me know. And then you also go to that third person, like over the shoulder. He said over the shoulder didn't feel scary enough, or like, or it didn't feel hopeless enough, where you're like right there, like witnessing it actually come to you face first, right? He felt that you were still being guarded by that character right there when it comes to the horrifying elements. He said that's why they went back to that first. It was so cool how they described why they went back to first person, or why they went to first person, my bad, while like copying basically every other horror game, or at least using the ideologist aspects of all these first person games, man. And I think that's the cool route. And I don't know if Resident Evil will ever go back to the way 4, 5, and 6 were. But I do love the way 7 and 8 were made. So I hope that they stay like that. I know that's kind of like every other indie horror game, just having a first person, here you go, throwing some horror scares. But Resident Evil has always been way more in depth. So I hope they do keep it like that, or they find a foundational attribution so they can stay in this scary mode. Resident Evil has to be scaring. It is the lead component of why. And now, like with 5 and 6, it kind of reminds me of like all the movies and stuff, of how they started going way too much action also. And so I'm so glad that they're using, you know, being humble, being aware, knowing the audience, and just delivering and being like, hey, here's Resident Evil, but in the meantime, enjoy Dead Rising. So I know probably around that time Dead Rising comes out, maybe late 2024. I think that Resident Evil will be announced, or at least maybe some details by that point. We might get more teases. Also, the official Twitter of Resident Evil did confirm, man. So y'all got to be letting me know what's up, man. Y'all let me know y'all's thoughts. I'm excited for a new Resident Evil. Appreciate y'all. Peace.